Welcome to the Hang Time Podcast. Sekou Smith from NBA.com, my main man, Lang Whitaker in New York.
Yo.
Welcome to the NBA summer that never ends, Lang. It never stops. News every day. It's like
It's ridiculous.
It's like Washington D.C. There's a new blazing headline every day regarding basketball. I would tell you it's been a fun summer. And then I remember we were in Vegas last week, or 2 weeks ago, and it was the same thing out there. Summer League in headlines every day. To help us break some of that down, let's talk to the professor, our main man, Paul Flannery of SB Nation, joining us here on the Hang Time Podcast. Paul, we just want to find out first and foremost, just right off the bat, have you requested a trade? And if so, what are your preferred destinations?
Yeah, I'd like to go to Kauai. Do they have a franchise?
Oh man,
No, I'm good.
What do you make of it? What do you make of all this craziness this summer? This has been the craziest NBA summer I can remember since LeBron decided to take his talents to South Beach.
Yeah, but at least that was over.
Yes, that was a one-hit wonder.
Right, it happened. Immense fallout for weeks, really, and then it's like late July. There's that day when everybody's like, I think we're done. Are we done? Yeah, I think we're done. There's a couple things left here and there, but I think we're good. And I hit that moment. I'm like, all right, here I am. I'm good. I got vacation lined up in August. And then, no,
we're not done.
No.
We're not done. Thanks to Kyrie Irving, we're nowhere near done.
Yeah.
Cavaliers point guard Lang has decided he wants a trade. Minnesota, Miami, San Antonio, New York are on his hot list. Is this craziness on Kyrie's part to divorce LeBron James in an automatic trip to the Eastern Conference Finals every year for greener pastures elsewhere, I guess?
We can break it down a lot of different ways, but to answer your question, yes. Why would you want to go? I think this is a case of the grass looking greener somewhere else.
Right.
And then once you get there, perhaps that grass is a little more brown.
Couple of brown spots on the side, patch that just won't grow at all.
Who am I talking to about lawn care there? Since Sekou won the award in his neighborhood.
Yes, Yard of the Year last year.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
it took a lot of hard work. I had to pay a whole lot of money to my yard man who was helping me get it together.
That's great. Congrats, man.
I don't know if anybody realized I had a professional helping, but
anyway, my bigger point here is that if Kyrie's going to ask for a trade, whatever, that's his right to ask for that. I don't understand why.
Let me ask you this, Paul. Does the 25-year-old Paul Flannery admire Kyrie a little bit? Saying, you know what? I don't want to be little brother. I don't want to operate in LeBron's shadow. I want my own show. I want to be the man. I want everything on my shoulders. Does the younger you appreciate that kind of ambition?
Listen, the younger me was like, trying to figure out how I was going to get from Monday to Wednesday. Let alone, hey, let me go. I want to go carry a franchise on my own. So, I love how you phrase that, Sekou, because that's how I was trying to think about it. I'm like, man, I have no idea what I would do in that situation. But now that I am of discerning age, in my early 40s,
right.
I look and I say, no, I'm with Lang. I'm like, no way, of course not. No, you stick. We've seen this play out so many times over the years, guys, and it rarely ends well. And stay with LeBron as long as you can. Live in golden paradise. If LeBron wants to go somewhere, ask him to take him with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Please take me with you, Bron. So, right, I'd stay attached to that guy's hip for the rest of my career if I could. But I think that's really what this comes down to is 25-year-old Kyrie wants to see what he can do on his own.
But the thing about the little brother thing, Sekou, that you mentioned, Kyrie doesn't want to be the little brother anymore. If he's the little brother to Paul George,
right,
I can see, okay, I want to spread my wings. I want to give this a shot.
Sure.
It's something different to be the little brother to arguably one of the greatest players of all time.
Right.
Maybe one of the top 5 players to ever play the game in his prime. That's something different.
I know.
To me.
I thought about this long and hard over the weekend, and I was arguing with my cousin, and I'm not going to tell you which one because he'll be upset if I put his name out there. He insists that Kyrie is a top 3 point guard. And I was like, dude.
Oh, no.
I said, dude, I don't even know if he's in the top 5.
Oh, no.
And so we battled all weekend. And I'm telling you, I had a hard time squeezing Kyrie into my top 6. Because he doesn't play both ends like some of these other guys. Like,
right.
Steph is even a more willing, to me, defender. Like, Steph's not a great defender by any stretch. But he gets in passing lanes and gives effort. I'm telling you, Kyrie, there are times when I forget Kyrie's on the floor on the defensive end. Like, he's literally a non-factor.
Give us your ratings.
Well, I had Russ, and this is in, a scratchy order.
Right.
I had Russ. I had CP3. I have James Harden, who I don't care what anybody says. He's technically a point guard, according to Mike D'Antoni. I got John Wall. I got Isaiah Thomas. And that, like I said,
Kyle Lowry.
When I get to 5, somebody sent me something that was awesome. They said regular season Kyle Lowry, which I was like, yes. And I was like, that's a great distinction.
That's a fair point.
Regular season Kyle Lowry definitely belongs on that list. But, you can't confuse what Steph Curry's done, obviously. I mean, he's a 2-time MVP, 2-time champion. Under no circumstance could I rank Kyrie ahead of him. There's just a log jam at the position.
Right.
And we saw Kyrie pre-LeBron. He was a numbers guy. He put up really good numbers. I watched him in the World Championships in Spain where he was unbelievable. It was the first time I got to really lock in and focus on Kyrie and his game, and he's such a dynamic offensive player. But I don't know that he ranks high on anybody's list when you're talking about complete guys who can play both ends.
It's funny you mentioned Isaiah. I looked that up because, here in Boston, the mob demands that we trade for every single player who ever becomes available. Danny needs to give up those assets right this very second.
Right now.
So I looked up the Isaiah Kyrie thing, and if you look it up on Basketball Reference, do a side-by-side comparison of their last season, they are remarkably similar.
Right.
Remarkably similar in terms of production. And, and then you think to yourself, oh, okay, well, of course you want Kyrie Irving. Well, they're about the same. Now he's younger and all that too.
Sure.
So yeah, that's where Kyrie is. And by the way, that's an amazing place to be. We're in this golden age of point guards where being at that level is still a star caliber player, right? If this is 5-10 years ago, that's an even elevated player. But there's so many great point guards right now. And yeah, I don't know where he fits in all that. And I don't know how he fits as the number one guy.
No. And listen, you put him side by side with Isaiah Thomas. The context is Isaiah Thomas is not playing with LeBron.
Right.
He's not playing with the best player on the planet who has – listen, you say whatever you want about LeBron. For him to go back to Cleveland and to play a style of game where even he admits he took a step back from the monster numbers he could put up to make sure Kyrie thrived. I mean, he's done all this while making sure Kyrie continues – to ascend, that his game continues to get better. I have no idea what will possess anybody to want to leave a situation where you get to play with a guy as good as LeBron who's still going to let you be who you are and do what you want to do on the court. I don't want to assume anything without knowing the details of what's going on.
Yeah, man.
But this is something more than that, right? This is something more than basketball.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I came to this revelation while I was thinking about the show, and I wanted to share it with you guys. The list of 4 teams to me is totally fascinating because when I first saw the list, I was like, these don't really make a lot of sense. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized it checks every single box on the why would he want to do it chart, right? Like Minnesota, Jimmy Butler, they apparently become best friends. Here we are, right. I'm teaming up with a peer. New York, you want to be the biggest star in the world? Hey, man, what better place than the Big Apple, the Mecca, New York, right? And then you get down to San Antonio. I am the selfless player who will put team ahead of my own individual. I will go to San Antonio or Miami, which is sort of the ultimate revenge fantasy. I'll go to where LeBron came from and team up with Pat Riley. It's awesome. It's like a choose your own adventure story. And Kyrie's always been a sphinx to me. I don't know where he's really coming from on this.
Yeah, it doesn't add up.
One thing is when the list says New York, but I wonder if that means Brooklyn also. There's never been any clarification on that.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not. It's such a nebulous list that you can do anything with it.
Yeah, and Lang, seriously, Kyrie is a New York kid or New Jersey, tri-state area, whatever you want to call it. He's from that area. I get that. I get the Jimmy Butler connection if these guys are tight and they, and he's looking and saying, I want to play with a peer. Miami, any fool that appreciates cafe con leche and the scene would want to go to Miami. San Antonio, that one makes no sense to me. Not only would you be going to a place where the system overshadows the star, you're not even going to be the man down there. That's Kawhi Leonard's team. That's not going to be Kyrie's team.
The one thing I thought about that was maybe he has a good relationship with Pop from USA Basketball.
When?
He was around, because he was coaching he was observing, right?
Yeah,
so he was
but
around,
Coach K was the guy. I mean,
I know, but maybe, I don't know. I thought about that picture we saw of Pop with James Harden and Chris Paul from Summer League.
Right.
Maybe he has a similar relation. I don't know, but that was the only thing I could come up with.
Okay, look, I'm going to put it this way. The most delusional group of people involved in this entire thing. We've heard all of the rumors about LeBron being upset. Then LeBron says he's not. LeBron's going to whoop Kyrie when he sees him. Then he's, that's fake news. And then I watched Kobe Altman and Dan Gilbert yesterday. And I thought to myself, these dudes are on a whole other planet with this thing. They're acting like, Kyrie he never even demanded this trade. Like it never happened. And I'm thinking, are the people in Cleveland delusional enough to think that this all ends well, that LeBron and Kyrie are going to make up and everything will be great and the Cavaliers will keep going to the NBA Finals for the next 5 years? I mean, this is over, right?
I was on the radio in Akron yesterday.
Oh, what are you, crazy?
and they kept talking about this whole thing in the past tense. And I said, if there's one thing I've learned being around this league the last 20 years, it ain't over till it's over. You never know. I mean, we heard Shaq and Kobe doing this for 3 years as the titles piled up.
Right.
I until it's over, I wouldn't say it's over.
I don't know.
We should all read a collective book together called "If There's One Thing I Know," and list like the 88 things that we have learned about the NBA. Because yes, I agree with you, Mike.
I see, and I'm looking at this and saying to myself, how do you salvage this when LeBron's clock is ticking? This time next summer, LeBron can move on, and I respect Kyrie having full comprehension of that and saying, you know what, before I get left holding the ashes the way Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh did in Miami, I'm getting out of here. And I have no qualms with Kyrie about saying, I want out of here. Everybody's like, well, he's under contract for 2 years. Man, dudes ask for trades all the time. Dudes try and force their way out of places in situations all the time. At least he walked in there man to man, face to face, and said, hey, I want you to move me.
I agree with you.
He could have been a brat and been a complete a-hole for the next couple of years and made life miserable for everybody, or he could go in there and just say, hey, you know what? I want to play somewhere else.
I agree that has the right to go in there and ask for a trade. Other guys ask for trades all the time. But it also, to me, speaks to not planning this thing out perhaps as well as he could have, because he's not really giving himself a lot of options here. And, with 2 years left on a deal, to say, I want to go to these 4 places and not to have a no trade clause.
Right.
They can send him wherever they want.
Yeah.
So,
Where do you guys think he ends up? I think Phoenix still makes the most sense.
I like Phoenix. I would love to see he and Devin Booker play together. I think that could be a diabolical offensive machine if you had those two together. I always side with a player when he's hell-bent on going somewhere and he's decided this is where I want to be. But I just can't see Cleveland sending him anywhere in the East. There's no way I'd trade him East if I'm Cleveland.
If they could wait for Minnesota.
I was going to say, I could see sense. Minnesota happening if they're patient enough to wait to the trade deadline to do something.
Right.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Maybe they can wait until Teague's eligible to be traded. What's that, October 15th?
Right.
December 15th.
December 15th.
Look at Lang. He's trying to get this thing done immediately.
I mean, maybe they're able to hold this thing off until then, you're just.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
Can you imagine the first day of training camp? Paul, let me ask you this. And aside from him getting smashed on by his kid and it going viral, is Danny Ainge sitting back and smiling harder than anybody, knowing that he doesn't have to squeeze his assets to do anything? He can almost sit and wait for Cleveland.
That's what his plan was anyway.
To blow away and just keep doing his thing.
I thought that was the plan all along. To wait, they're just waiting until 2020.
It was an element of the plan. This plan has many layers and levels, as I have documented over the last few years. You guys have the famous photos of Danny Ainge with that Cheshire grin. Yeah, I think that's been plastered on his face this whole summer. Yeah. I'm not sure. There's a couple of things could have maybe broken his way a little bit better, but not many. Yeah. The Paul George thing. But outside of that, I mean, this is perfect.
If you're a Cleveland fan, like, whose jersey or picture are you burning first when all of this blows up in your face? Like if Kyrie gets traded, LeBron leaves next year, is it Kevin Pritchard for not trading you Paul George? Like, does he become the new Art Modell of Northeast Ohio? Like, is he the dude who's the figure you point to and go, if this guy just would have done this one thing, we'd be fine? If you're
Kevin Pritchard, you did what you were supposed to do, right? Like, I mean, you didn't make the Cavs better.
You didn't make the Pacers much better either.
No, but you also didn't make the
and you didn't get any future assets.
Better. Yeah. So, well, unless you count Sabonis and Oladipo as future assets. But yeah, if I'm a Pacers fan, I'm okay with it.
No, but I'm saying if you're in Cleveland.
But they're supposed to not like the GMs of the other teams, right?
Yeah, but all he had to do was sign off on this trade. And if you're the Cavaliers, you're rolling. Everything's fine. You're challenging the Warriors instead of looking up at them now like they're 100 feet further away from you.
It's an easy deflection to make if you're there, but like it kind of overlooks the fact there might be a bigger issue here or two. Like, not having a GM until through all this whole process because your guy walked out the door.
And listen, full disclosure, Michael Lee and I were in Vegas, and we saw David Griffin at dinner one night at everybody's favorite tapas spot, Firefly.
Not everybody's.
Well, those who haven't succumbed to the gastrointestinal issues that have plagued our favorite place every now and then.
Don't want to hear about it.
It was strange, man. Like, you know how you see GMs when they're at the height of their power, and they're like, it can be frosty. But David Griffin has gone through a lot, obviously, with the Cavaliers the last 3 years, and then his health issues as well. Seeing him he gave us man hugs. It was, you can tell I think this thing knocked him down a little bit, obviously, because I'm assuming he thought for sure he would either get a new contract in Cleveland and get a chance to continue building on what they've done since LeBron came back, or there would be some other opportunity out there for him, and it hasn't happened. I mean, for whatever reason, he hasn't found a fit in a front office elsewhere. Do you think it's as simple as, had they had that continuity, maybe they avoid some of these mishaps? Maybe he smooths this thing over with LeBron and Kyrie. This never, sees, the light of day, and maybe one of those deals that they were hoping to get done gets done if David Griffin's in place.
Let's unwind this a little bit, because the reason he hasn't had really many opportunities is there weren't that many out there.
Sure.
Because the Cavs kept denying him permission for these open jobs.
Right.
Which there was one in Milwaukee, there was one in Orlando, and then the one that became available was New York.
Right.
And I think you saw a little bit of David Griffin's character in that situation, where the reason he walked away was over, wanting to have final authority and final control. And if he's not going to have that, he's not going to do the job.
Right.
So, look, not every GM says no to the Knicks at big money, especially when you just found yourself out of work.
Sure.
And that's what he did. So I think, I don't want to paint the guy as a saint. I think he's really good at his job. I have a great relationship with him, but I think that faced with what he was faced with in Cleveland, I'm not sure he knew what was going to happen. And I think that sort of, dysfunction and uncertainty has led to a lot of stuff. Could he have saved it if he had stuck around? I don't know. That's a great question that we'll never know the answer to, but seemed like he put out a lot of fires in his time there pretty successfully.
somebody did. It had to be him or somebody. Somebody did. Maybe it was Kobe Altman. Maybe we'll find out that the real magician, the real wizard in Cleveland has been this guy. But I'll be honest with you. I don't know him. I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with him. I've seen him, of course. But that was a pretty anonymous crew outside of Griffin in Cleveland in terms of who's been pulling strings and running the show up there the past 3 years. A lot of people would tell you this the real GM is still there, of course, in LeBron, which
I think that's overblown.
Well, which leads me to my next question for both you guys. Does passive-aggressive LeBron this summer strike you as a guy? I keep hearing people saying, well, LeBron, he doesn't know what he's going to do yet. And I'm thinking, really? You think this guy is sitting around waiting to figure out, which way the wind's blowing to decide his next step? He's way too calculated for that. LeBron has to have an exit strategy already in mind and in place if he's going to leave Cleveland.
Sacred, to me, this kind of speaks to what we talked about on the blog table this week, which the question was, what's next for LeBron? And I've heard all the people say, well, he's definitely going to the West Coast. He's after this next season, he's going to LA. And
craziness, by the way, to me.
To me, too.
Let's go to the Stack West and see if we can beat the Warriors from the inside. It's like, what?
Anything, Danny Ainge's grin grows wider.
LeBron is calculating. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He's thinking 5 moves ahead.
Sure.
Why would he go to a team that's in the same conference, in the same division?
Same division.
As maybe the best team in the last decade, He's
going to hide in plain sight. Hey, Warriors, you don't see me down here in L.A.
I don't know why he would do that.
Yeah.
If he wants the easiest path back to the finals, to having the best chance of winning a title, to me that still goes through the Eastern Conference. Especially with the Millsap, George,
there's this
Butler,
great migration
Exodus.
of talent to the West. It's like,
if anything, it's even easier now in the East. So this kind of gets to what are the Cavs going to do with this whole Kyrie situation? If they lose Kyrie Irving, do they have to get a player back that's of the same caliber to have a shot to get to the finals again? I don't think they do.
I don't think they can.
Well, okay.
Where are you going to find a 25-year-old all-star gold medalist champion who hit the biggest shot in franchise? Like, where are you going to find that dude at?
So my thought is maybe this is when they can kind of make up for what they've been going through the last 5 years.
You mean all the mistakes?
Well, all the times that they've chosen
Anthony Bennett, trading Wiggins.
The times they've gone for experience over youth. Right?
Or expediency over whatever. Yeah.
Trading a first-round pick for Channing Frye. Trading a first-round pick for Kyle Korver. Maybe you can move Kyrie Irving. You can get a younger player who can give you minutes, who might have the opportunity to grow into something in the next couple of years. And you can get a couple of draft picks. And maybe this is your chance to do that. And you might still be good enough to win the Eastern Conference with a LeBron-Kevin Love duo and whatever you can put in on top of that.
Right. Paul, we talked about Vegas. You're a man who appreciates a good bet. Are you betting on LeBron above all things?
Both are. That's a lie. I'm betting on LeBron above all things. As long as LeBron's in the East, then they whatever team that is the favorite. And when we think about these possible offers, I'm still intrigued by the idea of Eric Bledsoe. Mm-hmm. And if I knew that Eric Bledsoe was going to be healthy, which I do not know, and that's a huge talk about a bet. That's a huge bet to make. But I would be intrigued with the idea of a super fast, turbocharged Eric Bledsoe with something to prove unleashed next to LeBron. That's an interesting team to me. I hear the Wiggins stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but it's going to take Wiggins a little while to get rolling here. I mean, if you're looking to continue as Cleveland, and Lang, I'm with you. I think if I'm LeBron, man, like just stay in Cleveland and build this thing. Maybe you can not just be the shadow GM, you can be the de facto GM. Maybe you can be running the whole franchise by the time you're left because you've got the leverage here all day long. So, all these different things, I think we'll find out a lot about what they're doing based on what the return on the trade is, right? And what I like about Phoenix real quick is that you could do Bledsoe and you could also get some young guys back or picks or something. You can get a little something for the future thrown on top of that.
I don't know if Phoenix would do it, but if I could get Bledsoe and Josh Jackson,
There's no way. See, if I'm Phoenix, there's no way I'm giving up Josh Jackson.
I agree.
Absolutely. And you've already said that.
I love Kyrie, but there's no way.
Right. But Marquise Chris, I know these guys are unformed and whatever.
Yeah, I'll give you one of them. But I'm not, which team theoretically makes the most sense, though, from a basketball perspective, like from a compete right now perspective?
For Kyrie?
Yes. Like if for Cleveland, like if you're going to send him somewhere, you want him out of your hair in the Eastern Conference, but you want to make sure that this goes down the way you need it to keep everybody happy.
If you're Kyrie, isn't your best chance to win staying in the East somewhere?
Or San Antonio, maybe, or maybe the idea of you and Kawhi together,
reunited with Dion Waiters in Miami. Come on,
I didn't even think about that. I never even thought about that.
It's got layers and levels, man.
Oh my gosh, this summer never ends. This drama never. This soap opera that has become NBA off seasons, it never ends. And you know what the worst part is? I love it. We should hate this. We should be upset that we're going to be going into August still talking about trades and free agency and foolishness. I remember as recently as maybe 7 or 8 years ago when you could go ghost in the NBA for like the first 3 weeks of August and nobody said a word. Like,
nope,
nothing. There was crickets.
I tried it the other day. Yeah. I went and saw Dunkirk, and I'm getting emails about Alan Crabb getting traded.
Well, listen, guys, I don't care what this happens. I am definitely ghosting in August because I'm gonna be a stay-at-home dad. Like it's already done. It's planned. It's happening, and the little guy does not care.
He doesn't care about Kyrie Irving. Paul, we appreciate it. Listen, I'm gonna cross my fingers because as much as I love the Fotang Cafe, and Lord knows I've eaten a lot of banh mi sandwiches and rice the past 3 Junes. Boston's one of my favorite food towns. And if we get a chance to come to Boston for the finals, which, it's one of those championship places that there's so much. I'm not going to be upset if Danny Ainge is smiling next June.
I should also point out here, Paul is he's one of the charter members of the Other Mama Las Vegas dining club. Sekou got to go this year.
So, Lang, I've thought about this, and Sekou, I've thought about this. If the finals come back to Boston, I've got the spot all picked out.
Okay.
I might, guys reserve finals hotels like in February or January.
Yes, I know a couple people who do that.
I might reserve it now for say 2019, 2020, because it's really hard to get a reservation there. Yes. And it's going to be a select list. But you guys are definitely on it.
Yes. We need to make that. We need to make the cool kids list.
I won't even reveal the place because it's that good.
I'm with it. I'm all for it. Listen, Paul Flannery of SB Nation, the professor, hanging out with us on the Hang Time podcast. Listen, we appreciate it. We're getting ready to browbeat our other favorite, smartest dude, John Schumann, with some of his NBA trivia, Paul. So we'll tell him you said hello and enjoy being a stay-at-home dad, my man.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, Paul.
Chew. What's up, sir? I don't want to hear any complaining about your off season and the kitchen not being done yet. You better have some trivia for us.
Fellas, what's going on?
Chilling.
All right, so here we are, July 27th. Free agency is basically done for the most part. But we have a couple of trade possibilities. But I want to know, as rosters stand right now, with Kyrie Irving still on the Cavs and Carmelo Anthony still on the Knicks, and not all deals are official, but I'm talking about with deals agreed upon, what team is set to return the highest percentage of last year's minutes on its roster? So basically, if you took all the minutes played from last year and accounted for like the players that are still on the roster, the percentage of last year's minutes that are coming back.
Wow,
I've got an idea.
You got a guess?
The Golden State Warriors.
No. Warriors are fourth on the list at about 85% of last year's minutes, with a bunch of free agents. Ian Clark sort of being the guy, a free agent that doesn't look like he's coming back. Played 1,100 minutes last year, so they're actually fourth on the list.
What about John Hartzell's mighty Milwaukee Bucks?
Good. That's a great guess. Number 2 at about 87%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good guess. 87%. Almost all their minutes coming back.
Right.
One team ahead of them.
Is it a playoff team?
Correct. Yes, it is a playoff team.
Is it Washington?
Washington. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
About 88% of last year's minutes are coming back.
I don't know if that's a good thing
for Washington. Well, I mean,
sometimes you need a. Well, I mean, yeah,
they're pretty good.
Yeah, the only ones they're really losing are some bench guys like Bogdanovich who came after the
deadline
at the trade deadline is like the guy who played the most minutes for them and is not coming back, just 600 minutes. So basically the top 8 guys in minutes on Washington are back.
Where do you come up with this stuff? Like, seriously, who sits around in the dead of summer thinking of it? Yeah.
I've done this sort of continuity stuff each of the last few years, so it's something that I've already got like made up, and it just sort of you have to go through the rosters, and it's kind of a fun little tool. So who do you think is last? What team is returning the fewest percentage?
Lang's Atlanta Hawks.
No, they're fourth. They have the fourth lowest number.
Oh, okay.
45.
They obliterated their roster, so I figured they would be.
Yeah, but they still have Schroeder and Bazemore.
3 teams below them.
Man,
who's got a lot of?
Whose team has just been desperate? Like, who took their team apart?
2 in the West, 1 in the East.
The Clippers.
Clippers are second to last, 38%. Obviously losing Paul and Redick and Crawford, the big ones.
What about the other team in L.A.?
And Mbah-a-Moute. Lakers actually 58%. That's the eighth or ninth fewest.
Minnesota.
Nope.
No?
6th fewest, 57%. This team is the one that's returning the fewest is at 32%. Now, remember, this is all of last year's minutes. So they're the biggest one that this team lost was actually lost, or one of the biggest ones that this team lost was actually lost at the trade deadline last year.
In the West or the East?
Western Conference team. Who was the big trade at the trade deadline last year?
Sacramento and the Pelicans?
Right, Sacramento. Sacramento is returning only 32% of last year's minutes.
That's a good thing.
So Darren Collison is the one who played the most minutes last year that's gone. DeMarcus Cousins, Aaron Aflalo, Anthony Tolliver, Matt Barnes, Ben McLemore, and Rudy Gay all played at least 1,000 minutes for the Kings last year and are no longer there.
Yeah. That's actually nice, though. I mean, they're starting fresh.
Garrett Temple basically is the guy who played the most minutes on that team and is still there last year.
Wow. So what you're saying is cover your eyes for the first few weeks.
Yeah. So it's Sacramento as far as fewest. It's Sacramento, Clippers, and then Indiana is the Eastern Conference team bringing the fewest minutes back. Obviously, Paul George and Jeff Teague, C.J. Miles, all gone.
Right. Shu, just want to get your opinion on one other thing here. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, in an interview with C.J. McCollum on the Players Tribune, they talked about expansion. Now, I don't know if you and Lang are old enough. I know you guys are millennials or whatever, so I don't know if you even remember going to Seattle and Vancouver on road trips in the NBA, which graybeards such as myself remember it fondly.
Well, I'm not that young, but I haven't been covering the league as long as you have.
Adam Silver talked about it being inevitable, that at some point, they'll start looking at growth of franchises. And he uttered the magic word, Seattle, which, of course, sends our man Bones Berry and Jamal Crawford and all these people into like a frenzy, hoping that a team goes back there. Other than Seattle, what city do you think should get an expansion team, or would you love to see get an expansion team? And we can argue about whether or not expansion is a good idea another time. I'm just curious, which city would you like to see?
Seattle would definitely be my number one pick. Mm-hmm. I think Vancouver is another one that you would you would think, although maybe those two places are too close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I guess St. Louis is one that has an arena, right?
Yeah, the Sky Trade Center or whatever, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't know that. Isn't there some rule they can't put one in St. Louis?
Why?
I'm not sure.
From the ABA thing from way back, there's like a.
I don't know about that.
I don't think so.
And then maybe Louisville. Louisville has I think an NBA quality arena.
Yeah, I actually saw it this year, so it's pretty nice.
And obviously, Kentucky has a huge, basketball culture.
Right. And
any team, almost every team is going to have at least one or two Kentucky or Louisville alums on the team. So like if you get an expansion team there, and whoever's the latest star to come out of Kentucky or Louisville gets drafted by that team, then you're in good shape.
Yeah.
So that would be one I think that maybe deserves should be under consideration.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Len?
My vote would be for Paris or London.
That's a good choice. Good choices.
I'm up for that.
I think Seattle would be great, of course. It's one of my favorite places. What about San Diego? I mean, if we're just talking strictly road trips, and if you're a beat writer, I
wouldn't mind that one.
Where would you like, if you have to go to Detroit in February and Milwaukee and, on back-to-backs, you should be able to balance it out with a Phoenix, L.A., San Diego triangle at some point. I just think that would be fair for beat writers around the world.
I'm up for San Diego.
Shout out to everybody grinding on the beat.
Get some good Mexican food probably down there.
Oh, my gosh. I know exactly where you could get some. I have a place already scoped out. I've been there many times. All right, Shu. Well, look, is the kitchen remodeled finished? Are you guys back up and running? What's up?
It's 95% done. It's functional.
Come on.
We're just missing a couple of lights and the hood over the stove, and we'll be good to go. So.
Well, I mean, in a house with a couple of architects or former architects, you didn't go in there at the last minute like on HGTV and be like, we want this light over here and we want 6 more inches on the kitchen island. Like, you didn't pull that stunt at the last minute, did you?
No, but it's still been a long, long process, and we're a little tired of eating out every 2 meals a day. So we're happy to be functional at least at this point.
We should have made a call to Chip and JoJo and see if they come and go on the road and do something in Jersey instead of just
too expensive, man.
That's my plan for retirement. Once the kids get out of college and stuff, then we're buying a second house in Waco just to.
You can buy a house there for like $75,000.
And go to the bakery and have cupcakes every day.
They call that stalking in Texas.
Schuman's going to move into the silos.
They call that stalking. They get restraining orders for that shoe.
It's all about the quality of work.
Yeah, right. Nice. John Schumann with the Schumann Stat, the award-winning Schumann Stat here on the Hang Time Podcast. We appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, fellas.
All right, brother.
Thanks, John.
John Schumann, my man. Anyway, like this NBA offseason, I was going to say we'll shut it down and everybody get a little rest. And that's not going to happen. This NBA offseason will continue to crank. So make sure you follow every bit of the action on NBA.com. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Make sure you leave a glowing review and come back every Thursday. And if you want to stand out, you need to leave the kind of 5-star review that Bronson Johnson in Australia left.
Is that his real name?
That, according to him, I'm rolling with it. I love this, though. This is his 5-star review he left for the Hang Time Podcast. 2 great NBA minds talking ball and making it entertaining every time. The Schumann Stat is low-key my favorite part, as I guess, along with the boys. Keep it up, Lang, Sekou, and John. That's from Bronson Johnson in Australia. Bronson, we're not just guessing, dude. We are throwing knives in the dark. We have no idea on these trivia questions. So when we get them after 4 tries, we deserve a little credit because we have no idea coming in what it's going to be.
He's no Tragic Bronson.
Bronson Johnson in Australia. Shout out to you, my man. We appreciate you. Thanks to Paul Flannery and John Schumann. for joining us this week on the Hang Time Podcast. We will see you right here next week.
Later.
Thanks for listening to the Hang Time Podcast, and be sure to subscribe on iTunes for a new episode every single Thursday this season. And as always, people, remember, say Kuna Matata.
Hey, before you go, we wanted to let you know that we just launched the ability for anyone to advertise on podcasts. You're just a few clicks away from reaching millions of people in a way that you never have before. Advertise for a business, event, or kick off an awareness campaign for your brand. Start today at purewinning.com/CNN. Integrating podcasts into your marketing mix has never been easier. We'll even tell you how to save 15% on your campaigns for the rest of 2017. Go to purewinning.com/CNN to get started.